It looks like we're about ready with the Sylvan tail run, so I'm going to kick it on over to Omnigamer. Best of luck.
All right. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sylvan Tale. This is the first Game Gear game played on an actual Game Gear. I guess there have been a couple in Mega Collections and things like that, but yeah, this is a Japanese exclusive. We're going to be playing on the English translation patch today because of your kind donations. And yeah, this is a patch from Aeon Genesis. They put in a lot of work on it, and I think it's done pretty well. So thanks to them, you'll be able to understand part of how the story's going. But yeah, we're all set whenever. So the actual timing isn't going to start until there'll be a sequence where it's a little star falling, and when the boy appears is when time starts. So I'll call it out. All right, but until then, let's get it going. So for part of the story here, I mean, you can read it on your own too, but just to catch up, there's this tree nearby in the town that's stood for a long, long time. One day you just notice that there's a light shining from the top, and you're compelled. You must climb the tree and find out what's going on top of it. Something calling to you, pretty much. So using the amazing tree climbing skills that you were born with, you will wind up, find what's known as the seed, and it's this crest of sorts that suddenly whisks you away into a land of fantasy. All right, start time coming up, and now. So you're dropped off in here. The only thing that you're told is that you need to collect the 6 droplets so that you can help to save their world. They give a minor hint as to where you can find some of them, but this is a Zelda-like game. You can use a sword. That's one iteration of the seed, also just dash. And because you're a human, you get the special ability to use all of your fingers and pull things. And that's really about it. That's all that humans are known for. But overall, starting off, you're kind of weak. There's not a whole lot of places that you can go, a lot of things that you can do. But we'll still find some interesting ways to utilize some of those things. One of the other things that is important to humanity is just the tenacity to be able to face a challenge head on and keep going despite any kind of problems you might encounter. There we go. So this is a minor skip. The dungeons throughout this game are not very long. For the most part, they are just a couple puzzles on top of each other, and it's straightforward. You don't overstay your welcome with any of them. But they usually have a goal of finding a crest, which will eventually get you out to the boss. But normally when you visit this, you actually have to go down twice to be able to reset that puzzle and do other things like that. Since we were braved the flames, we didn't have to worry about that at all. And I turned it off this time around, so we don't have to worry about it this time. Something that you're going to see quite a bit is just going into this menu. And I will be making a number of safety saves as well, just in case, you know, marathon luck and so on. But the number of times that you go into the menu is actually really important, just because that is a lot of headroom. This first boss, there's an animation cycle that he'll swap between. And if you are able to attack him right then, his invulnerability frames reset, so you can get an extra hit in when you normally wouldn't be able to. Right there. All right. One more cycle should do it. There we go. And we got our first seed, the Red Droplet. And this gives us a special bonus power. So we can now use the 100 technique, which is something that you'll be seeing a lot throughout the entire rest of the game, because it does double the damage of your normal sword swing, and is otherwise just a constant hitbox. So you can leave it out, and so long as you know that, say, a boss is going to stay where it's at, you can deal out a ton of damage very quickly. But otherwise, it also just clears out these vines. This lamp that I just picked up is unfortunately necessary. I didn't mention earlier on, this is a 100% run of the game, so I'll be going through and collecting every individual item, power-up, and so on. Some of them are skippable. This lamp is not one of those. There is a sequence in a dark room coming up that you think that you'd just be able to wander around aimlessly and eventually find your way out, but they make sure that you get the lamp. They completely restructure the room if you don't have it. There's also going to be a difficult boss coming up before too long, so it's really important that I try and conserve my HP throughout. And this room is not terribly kind for that. So the turtle altar, and of course, filled with spikes. You can wander around and make it through this so long as you actually have the candle. You can do it blind. It is very difficult to set up. There's not a whole lot of cues that you can set up to make sure you know where you are, and it's really important that you conserve as much HP as possible, so I will spend a little time to equip the lamp in that case. Here's the first orange, and there's a theme of fruits throughout this game. In this case, orange will expand your HP bar a little bit. There are 17 in the game, and we'll be getting all of them. Alright, mini boss number 1. It is completely random where he shows up and also how many flips it goes before he pops up. You have to hit him 6 times, there we go. And hopefully you'll cooperate. Please? Anytime, there you go. 4, 5, and 1 more. Oh no. Okay, got him. So, this turtle altar is a little strange just because there isn't a boss associated with it. It also has some puzzles like that one where there's only one correct switch, but you can hit all of them and it'll get you all the same result anyways. But that removes a barrier later on that prevents me from getting over to the turtle itself. And you'll see what I mean by the turtle. There's another mechanic to this game beyond just items, and it's one of the main important pieces, because they can't afford all the special abilities to humans. They have to spread the love around a little bit more. So this is our first art. It allows us to transform into a turtle, which is both the most, unfortunately, one of the most useless powers, but also the most important for a mechanic that you're going to see later on. Go slightly out of the way, grab another orange. This is a cherry, and it functions as just a health restorative. And I'll pick it up just for now, because I said we're going to the first battle with this random boss that I spoke about in the interview, where it's really a dangerous fight. I have to either play it super safe, or there's a significant risk of dying there. Luckily, I can save anywhere, and a death throughout most major parts of the game I'll be prepared with a save, and it really doesn't take much time to follow up, but we'll try and make this a deathless run as best as I can. So we get Turtle with the new ability to curl up in his shell and get launched up on a flyer. But there we go. He also moves less than half of my normal speed, so we're not going to see Turtle for getting around too much. You might have noticed on the screen that there's plenty of other places for other powers to go in that, so we'll be filling it out as we go through. But first, we got to get through Anne's Labyrinth. Every dungeon in this game is called a labyrinth, and I'll be just calling them shorthand lab. But this one is just one straight shot room with a bunch of traps. Hopefully these guys don't shoot me. And of course they did. Alright. We should be fine. And it'll really just depend on how kind Anne's blobs are. Alright. Safety save. And here we go. So her entire deal is that she splits into these 4 blobs, and they will move completely randomly around the map. Right now they're fairly slow, but it's still very important that I actually set up for them. They do a lot of damage. It's like 8 damage at this point in the game, so I am going to take it fairly cautiously in pursuing them. So far they've been pretty kind. Normally they spend a bit more energy just running straight into me. Okay. There. Okay. They were very kind this time around, but this is not the last time you'll see them, unfortunately. And Anne has problems facing backwards. But there we go. Anne is done. She's rather pissed off. But she gives us the first rift key. And this is important because there's a big theme of nature and trees throughout this, but there's a tree that you use to teleport between various different regions. That rift key is the first one that allows us to move up to the next and largest world. You might have noticed on the save screen that every time I save, it has a name in the lower corner that says Verdad, and that's where we currently are. It's the city area of Verdad, and in the original Japanese, it's called Kuni, which is grass country. And each individual place that we go after this has a different theme to it. Next up is Hana, which is flower country, which I think they adequately capture in the translation as flora. So away we go. All right, brand new world. There's a lot more to do here, but we're still a little skimpy on powers. So first thing that they need to do is let us get a little something extra so that we can continue progress. And the first, when we got the turtle slab, they made us go through a whole dungeon to get it. They didn't quite have the energy to build up something for that, so now we're going to pick up Mole, completely unceremoniously. It's just a random cave at the top. But Mole also has limited use, has some important instances, but really it's just another way to clear specific obstacles. Since this is 100%, there's something of a... Since I'm just about the only person who runs this game, it's kind of an internal controversy, but you get a specific item from talking to these guys, but it's also something that drops randomly from enemies, that apple. And the apple is essentially a sub-tank, so I can go use it whenever I'm especially low on health, and it will restore almost the full bar. However, it can also drop randomly from enemies. So if you really wanted to do this run well and you included the apple as part of the 100% definition, that just means that you'd have to start out and you'd hope to get it from the very first enemy you killed in the game, which is, well, that's a lot to reset over for saving 15 seconds. So I think long-term we're not going to include it. I show you getting it here also as a safety precaution, because this upcoming dungeon is one of the most dangerous remaining dungeons, just because the enemies can be fairly unkind. So here we go. Time for the Lake Labyrinth. The crabs move completely randomly, and they can speed up all of a sudden. Oh, like that guy. Luckily, he didn't come at me. It also introduces us to this other enemy, which we'll see many times, the jellyfish, which deal a ton of damage with those projectiles. And they also have a fair bit of HP compared to most other enemies too. And this is something that I was talking about earlier, is just optimizing how many times you actually need to go into the menu. A lot of dungeons will force you to have a number of swaps between different powers, like you saw there. And minimizing that to the best of my ability is quite important. Okay, I got the cycle there. Oh, get out of the way, crab. Alright. They can sometimes be really unkind. And luckily, all I've... go away, thank you. If I just remove that block from the button, that's usually enough to it teleports the block back to the center for me, so it's a little bit of extra work that I don't have to do the next time I revisit that room. So you can see it's already back to the center. It's a minor time save, but it's also something good to just understand. Don't, okay, good crab. The crabs have been behaving. We'll take it. All right, and this is... The bosses don't have any official names, as far as I can tell in the manual for the game. I call this guy New Form. Uh-oh. Well, we're off to a wonderful start. There's a brief period of time during most of his phases where you can still hit him, and it doesn't show as a flashing hit, but he is particularly difficult because he will move in a random direction for a random amount of time, and to do really well you have to just kind of predict where you think he's going to pop out. Alright, so last phase. He's going to shoot orbs. Okay, one more. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Alright. Whew, took him out. That was a little close. And we just picked up the choo-choo turtle power, as I call it. About the only other thing that the turtle is currently good for. We'll wind up with a bit more use later on. But yeah, the theme with going through each of these bosses is as you defeat new ones, you get a new power, which opens up more of the world for you to go into. So right now, these blocks we can take out with our new ability to move as a train. Well, if I was properly aligned anyways. Alright, thank you, turtle. You can go back now. And this is a fair time for some donations, I think. We just got some trekking through the forest to go.
Yeah, you got it. We have $30 from Amra the Lion. Thanks for the Game Gear love, Omnigamer. $30 from Shining Dragoon. Glad I donated for the English patch and on the back couch to cheer on Omnigamer. Never seen the game before, but it looks like a crisp game. Good luck.
Thank you. Alright, so another use for mole. I mean, there's a dam that's set up and you completely obliterate it because why not? One of the things that I kind of glossed over a little bit is I picked up Merman. Merman is another ability that they give you kind of unceremoniously, pretty much immediately after getting Mole, no less. And there's a reason for that, is simply that Merman is not any use out of water. And I don't just mean like it doesn't do anything, I mean it doesn't do anything. So, yeah. They try. It's really just your transportation across the realm when you get to the lake. Just like all the other forms, though, you do get a special ability later on. But first, you gotta get some flowers. Part of the purpose in destroying that dam is that you bring the water back over and it restores these flowers, which were earlier just dried up. The game is... The manual for the game lists out a number of characters and gives them actual names. I don't know why they list out some of the ones that they do. That girl who just gave me the flowers, as well as this old guy, both have names. Oh, I didn't want to talk to you again. Please, I've already heard your story. So the girl's name is Fita, and there's an old man later on whose name is Saul, but there's a lot of other important characters who you'll see more times than that who are not named. And I don't know why. Just they decided that a couple were standouts. So now we have flowers, and the story that they gave us is that they will revitalize and rekindle the spirits of anybody who sees them. If we had spent some time wandering around the village in Verdad, we would have found, well, some children who describe a little bit more of the state of the world to you, and it's actually pretty bleak. One of them tells you that, for example, the monsters don't bother with children. They wait until you're an adult to take you away. So it's kind of a grim view of things. But there's another girl there who's really upset that her brother has gone missing. And in fact, you just found him. He was captured by the monsters and set up in that cave. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the bravery of just running across spikes like I do, so he's trapped there for a bit. But the flowers also help us out with cheering up the spirits of this little boy, who is otherwise completely clammed up since all the flowers died off. So show him the flowers, he gets super excited and goes to show us his secret place, which, not to spoil anything too much ahead, but gives me one of my favorite powers. He clears away this tree, wind up going to the last of the normal powers. So at this point, if you're keeping track, we've got 4 other transformations other than human form, and we get the transformation for Mouse. And Mouse is fantastic because Mouse is really fast, and you can still attack things, and it has a number of other quirks to it, but we'll have to pick and choose a number of times that we need to transform back and forth with Mouse. All right. We have time for probably one more donation.
Absolutely. We have $10 from Biospark45. Excited to see Omnigamer's run of Sylvan Tale. I remember when I first got to play a copy of this, and it was such an amazing game. Donation goes to Runner's Choice.
All right, thanks. This is another one of those instances of forced item gathering. So the compass that I have obviously shows the way. The path, however, is the same every time. But if I do not have the compass, and I do not have the compass equipped, I cannot follow it. So they absolutely force you to go and get it. And this is our first encounter with Garcia. And he's kind of a jerk. Swings a baguette at you, and promptly just tells you to get the heck away. But he's something of your rival throughout this, which doesn't quite make a whole lot of sense since it's really you versus all the baddies, and he is not a baddie, but he's off on his own mission to try and save Rui, which is your established purpose. As you find out and you talk to various people, there's a Princess Rui who is out there. She was the original handler of the seed, and your purpose is to go and save her before all heck breaks loose. This dungeon has a gimmick with this room in particular where you can see 2 switches on the outer wall. The combination of those switches determines the room that you go into, but Garcia bit off a little too much more than he could chew. Yeah, it's not like we'll figure out the ever so difficult puzzle. We do need Mouse for this. This is the first case that you actually need Mouse. So if you had tried to progress through the dungeon, you would have gotten to about here and then been stuck. So you do have to wander back, do the whole flower sequence so that you can walk on these tiles that would otherwise depress on anything heavier than the mouse. And this is the first big quick kill. It does have a specific setup, so shouldn't mess it up. I need to align with the right wall. Go to that spot, swap back to human. There we go. And so long as there's 1 pixel of red right above my hair, I'm in the right spot. There is exactly 1 spot you can stand where you are safe from all of his attacks, and you can just hang out and goodbye, guy. He's otherwise really difficult. But there we go. Jungle Lab down. The way that movement works with this game is that every character has a specific distance, and everything that they move, there's subpixels that help to track that, and unfortunately that means that there's actually, for example, if you're mouse, you move about 3 pixels for every space that you move. So you start off in a position that you cannot actually get to the right spot to be safe in that scenario. So I have to align myself with that left wall and then get a very specific spot to come back to. For now, though, we're taking a bit of a detour. We just got Spindrill, which is the mole's power-up, and there's just a little bit of backtracking to do. There's something that I skipped earlier on just for the sake of trying to get a better point in the cutscene. So something that you'll notice coming up is that the children have repositioned themselves. They found a toy that they've been playing with, the Takatombo, and coming from the top, there's a lot further distance that I have to travel. However, that toy that's going back and forth, it needs to be on the right side so I can actually grab it to progress this cutscene. And I would have to wait if I talk to them the first opportunity I have from when I come from the bottom. And this opens up this area on the side where we find Old Man in the Forest, who reveals a little bit more about the story. So this is your first instance of figuring out the Queen Rui and kind of describing what's going on. But he also gives us a going away present, some life powder. The life powder is useful in a number of instances that, for our purposes, we need for 100%. So these decrepit trees just need a little bit of Miracle Grow, and they will grow lovely oranges. I mentioned that the Lake Labyrinth was about the last really scary one, and that's just because that's really the last time that we have kind of a scary low amount of health. Really, we get a lot of oranges very quickly, that it becomes a lot safer to try and work through this. This is the girl that I described earlier who had the missing brother, and he gave you a comb so that she would know that he's safe. And she's ever so happy, and just in keeping with the fruit theme, give you some grapes. Grapes operate like a, and if you're looking at Super Metroid, it's a reserve tank. So when you completely run out of HP, they will restore your health, but you have to have it equipped. And now we go out of our way to find just a little hidden plot of land that is only important now because we have the ability to spin drill with the mole. But it's still a little bit of travel time, so we can do another donation.
Sure, we have a $50 donation from Zackthar. Looking forward to the Sylvan Tail run. Put my donation toward the Super Monkey Ball race.
All right. So we get a fancy spin drill that, if you can look closely, you can see this very small crack in the earth, and there's just ever so few instances of that around. That's what allows us to go through. And Mouse, of course, has the ability to go into small places. So follow a little hidden maze, and you wind up with another orange. Please don't jump on me. Oh gosh. And we also get the floating stone, which is an optional item. This is actually something that opens up the way to the last power-up, which the first time I played this game, I never even found the last power. So it is something well hidden. But now that we have it, we are done with this revisit. Can head on back, move on to the next area, which is the desert. But there's more travel time yet, so probably 2 more donations are good.
Sounds great. $25 from Tim and Paul 229. Hooray, a run of Sylvan Tail by Omnigamer. Always enjoy watching these runs and seeing all the talent and effort that goes into these events. Thanks to all the runners, commentators, tech personnel, and people who donate to this great event. $25 from Wormy. Dear Omnigamer, I've never seen this game before, but it's giving me flashbacks to my childhood favorite, Golden Sun. Thanks for your great commentary. Much love from South Korea.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities in this game to, well, a wide variety of other game series in general. It's what makes it so approachable. Okay, so now we've got Choo Choo. It is not fast to travel this way, but it still saves on doing another couple menus to transform back, as we have one more spot to open up. And there we go. All right, back to Mouse. And we could have gone here immediately. In fact, this is where you're encouraged to go. The Desert Labyrinth is a little strange. It's kind of a break between all of these other labs that have bosses at the end that give you a new power. In this case, you're going just for one specific item. We'll leave that for now. Wander over, there's another orange to pick up. Da-da-da. And now we actually use the mysterious floating stone. That floating palace between the 4 stones does not appear unless you have the floating stone equipped. And in it, you find the last power. And this power would actually take the place of the item that you'd go into the desert lab to pick up. It's the power of Bird. And Bird is wonderful because it's just Bird. You can skip right over a lot of obstacles and enemies. It doesn't move as fast as mouse. It's about as fast as a human running, but just the ability to skip over the obstacles is very useful, if nowhere else in the desert, where I can skip over the sand pits. But since this is a 100% run, we will be going through all of the Desert Labyrinth anyways, pick up that item. One of the things that a lot of people will come into my chat and wonder is, okay, well, if this is 100%, what do you do for any percent? And the easiest answer I have is that any percent does not exist yet. And the reasoning for this is that it would be really, really hard to do an any percent run the right way, which would be pretty close to a low percent run. You'd actually skip out on most of the oranges, so you wouldn't bother to go look for them. And there's a boss later on that is especially difficult. It's another one of those instances of random movement, and there's just not really a good way of dealing with that, especially with the amount of upgrades that I have. It's still sometimes a close call. So to be able to do that with pretty close to your base amount of health is just not feasible at the moment. Maybe someday, but not presently. But this way, at least, I get to show off the full content of this game so that everybody has something to recognize should they try to play through this themselves. All right, so our entire purpose of coming here, picking up the hourglass, and it has exactly 1 use in the next dungeon, and depending on how I'm feeling, I might not even get used. There we go. All right, yeah, I'm starting to run a little low on health, so I think I'm going to use the alternative strat there. We take the upward sand waterfall to get out. I don't question the physics here. And that's it for a little bit. We've got to do a little bit more travel time to get back, so probably time for another couple donations.
You got it. We have a $500 donation from Fangamer.
Oh boy.
Hey Omnigamer, which incentives should this donation go to? It's your choice.
I think we've still got quite a ways on the Super Monkey Ball 2 incentives, so probably put it towards that. We got to see all the games we can at this event, I think. Thank you so much, guys. It means a bunch. All right. So we're on our way to Waterfall Labyrinth, and this is one that you can try to go to earlier on. There's nothing kind of blocking you from going here other than when you're actually there, there's a couple of significant obstacles that you cannot get past unless you have either the bird or the hourglass. But first, we've got to communicate with Old Man Rat, who knows the secret formula to upgrade our life powder. So now we've got the Purifying Powder. Lets us clean up poison water, which is significant for what actually comes up after this dungeon. And that was actually one of the things that took me the longest time to find in a casual playthrough, is just that you have to head over there. And normally you'd equip Hourglass here, and it would actually freeze these sand falls that you otherwise wouldn't be able to progress up. But, you know, flight works pretty well too. All right, stay down there, crab. Yep. Flub the controller. Get over there. This is one of those dungeons where there's just a lot of forced transitions, so a lot of extra menu time beyond what I would normally like, just between traveling, between those small holes being the mole to be able to break the blocks. You have to be human in order to push this one. Oh, that looks like a mighty boulder. I've been working out. as you probably noticed, none of these dungeons are particularly long or difficult. It's just enough to get a flavor of some variety of gimmick or puzzle type that they wanted to test out, and then it's over. And honestly, it's pretty fair. Like, remember that this is a Game Gear game, so it's a lot more important to have something that you can put down and come back to later without losing your train of thought. All right, that jellyfish is danger. Here we go. Another crest. I believe this is actually the last crest that you find. Most of the other dungeons do not have something like that. Alright, so this boss has another quick kill setup. It's a little more convoluted than the one you saw before, but I also have a pretty good chance of messing it up, so we'll get another save in just in case. That should be good. Alright, that was great positioning, and one more piece. And he's done. So I made it look fairly easy. There's a lot of very specific positioning you want to get to, just so that you can hit him without being him able to knock you back. Especially during that wrecking ball phase, it is really precarious to try and approach him. But just because I have a very good bead on where he's going to be after that first phase, I can set up in a spot where I am just barely safe, and I can take him out before I become in any real danger. The last power that we just picked up is this magnetism ability with the mouse, which is pretty sweet. I just wish it had more opportunity to get used than crossing poison water in a swamp. But the new Purifying Powder we have just cleaned up the whole swamp. That's a heck of a cleaning agent. And we wind up in the Swamp Labyrinth. And Swamp has a very simple and straightforward gimmick. There are only 4 rooms in the entire dungeon, and all you have to do is find this door right there. There you go, boss. This guy there's a bit of randomness to him. This first phase is not a whole lot going on. What really matters is what comes after. So now he's going to appear in one of 7 positions, and hopefully he's one of 5 closer to me. Alright, good luck so far. Nope, okay, so there he was, one of the farther slots. So I would not be able to reach him. Okay, one more hit. Oh, I must have had a weak hit somewhere in there. That's fine. Okay, so we go through one more cycle. If you don't hit the button fast enough... Oh wow, I must have had a couple weak hits. If you don't hit the button fast enough to go into the multi-slash, you don't get the extra damage boost out of it either. So a couple of those, it just used the normal sword swing damage. So I had to do a couple more hits than normal. But that was Swamp Labyrinth, and we got the last of our powers. The ability to dive in certain areas with Merman. And this will help us out in the last dungeon on this continent, going to Gull's Labyrinth, which is one of the most complex dungeons in the game, but also one of the most fun, because you get to show off a mechanic that otherwise, well, you'd never get to witness. We have time for probably one donation. Don't move. Okay.
All right, we have a $10 donation. First time catching a GDQ live, and I have to wonder how Sylvan Tale is such a beautiful looking game if it's on Game Gear. Money goes to Runner's Choice.
Yeah, Game Gear was an interesting idea. There's a lot of good things about it. Can display more colors than a Genesis, in fact, but it was just hobbled by its poor screen, and the amount of batteries that it ate up for a typical use is just unreasonable. But honestly, just seeing this game, it really makes me wonder what developers could have done if they really spent more time with it. This was a very late developed game, at least in, I want to say, '96. This is Gall's Labyrinth, and it's entirely built around trying to manipulate these balls, as well as there's a number of these puzzles where you have to fill in just the number without doing any backtracking. And there's a couple different solutions to each one of these. Ooh, that was close. If I bounce off of one of those onto one of the tiles I've already been, I have to reset it, and that involves swapping off of the mouse, which would be unfortunate. In this case, I can pull it as a human faster than I can move it as a mouse, so we set that up ahead of time. And normally I'd push it onto that switch, but we've got other business to attend to. All right, Turtle, time to shine. There we go. And that is something that I found during the 12-hour challenge. It really is important to just pay attention to what's happening in the game, and when you see something that's off, really spend a little bit more time investigating what the heck it is and how it ticks, and you can find up with some really interesting mechanics to use, like this one, for example. So this is just a zip. How it works is simply they have an error with how they calculate the positioning when the mouse uses magnetism ability. So you pull this ball 1 pixel into you, and then Turtle, there's some mechanics that are going on here with subpixels and stuff like that. Turtle actually moves slowest, so it helps it out to get just the right position. All right, another one of these. Since this one actually has things shooting at you, we wind up as Bird just to get a little bit extra safety. Yeah, here we go. And even though I'm flying, those spiky bits on the ground would still hurt me. Not all zips are good zips, and in this case I do want to save because I have a possibility of zipping out of bounds. There we go. There we go. All right. A few menu flubs. Come on. Come on. There he goes. All right. And last time with Bird. Yeah, it's the best shadow ever, able to depress things on the ground. All right, in this room, you're supposed to go through some fairly complex iron ball puzzles where you're sticking on the wall there, but they mistakenly put a spike there, and for the low price of half my health, I can get through with no problem. All right. Here we go. By the way, my name is Zetz. This is the first time in the game that they actually reveal what your character name is. And this is Gall, who is masquerading as Rui, so that you would find your way to him and he could beat the heck out of you. But I've got other ideas. This should be a good position. There we go. There we go. And that's Gall. These are kind of like the right and left hands of the main baddie of the game, who you later find out his name is Moa. But they're the guardians of the Rift Keys, which allow me to move to a new area, which means, that's right, it's time to go to somewhere new. But first, I've got to find a couple more places that are old first. Right. We can probably do a small handful of donations.
Absolutely. We have a $250 donation from Brian K85. Hey Eric, it's your little brother here.
Oh boy.
So glad to see you running Sylvan Tail at this GDQ. What would a GDQ be without you showing off a cool run of a game nobody's heard of?
That's right.
Keep up all the amazing work. Please put this donation toward Runner's Choice. Love you.
All right, thank you, bro. Okay, so we've got the last rift key, and it would take us up to the third area. I mentioned earlier that this is Hana no Kuni, or Flower Country, which they translate as Flora. But first, we've got unfinished business in Verdad. This is one of the things that I would have liked to find a way to route so that I would only have one revisit, but just looking at all the different ways to coordinate when I would travel here versus when I would be able to pick up bird and various other things like that, it really is, there's no better opportunity to travel back here than now. Unfortunately, there's still no better way to get up there. Mouse. Oh, nope, not you. Stay back. So since we have the magnetism ability, there were some conspicuous iron balls here right at the beginning. Can now head over, pick up one of the final oranges. But wait, there's more. Heading into the depths here, there's probably the most unique power-up in the game. I'll describe in just a minute. There's also some trivia here that I discovered over the course of just working with and routing this game. As part of it, I made a hitbox viewer, so something that would enable me to see just how large, for example, all the different boxes are. So we just opened Pandora's box, and Pandora's box is unique in that you can actually put it back. The power-up it gives you halves all the damage that you take, so not only do I have just gobs of health, but everything is going to do less damage to me now too. And it's still pretty important, but because they wanted to give you the opportunity to preserve some challenge if you didn't want that, you can put it back, you can close the box again, and it'll go back to normal. What I was mentioning with the hitbox business is that there's a door right over here. You can see the outline of it, that as far as we can tell is not used anywhere in the game. It's just there. It's something that they had planned to do but never quite worked on. In that room with the Pandora's box, there's a screen transition zone in the corner, and the theory is that once you had gotten Pandora's box, it would have actually opened up that door and you would have been able to much more easily go to it and either deposit it back or gain the ability. But it was never implemented in the final game, so that's the best guess I have. It's otherwise never used. All right, so now we are to the final area, Sylva. The original Japanese text for this is Mori no Kuni, which is forest country. And forest country is appropriate, but it's also among the smallest places to go. We have one of the final few orange trees. Our Miracle Grow has gotten a lot of use. And away we go. So supposedly this is where Princess Rui was originally calling to me from, and we're on our way to meet her. There it is. Just gotta navigate the forest maze, and here we go, the one speck of civilization on this continent. Unfortunately, it's mostly a graveyard. So, I mentioned before that this game, even though it looks all bright and so on, it's actually fairly dark. So you get here and talk to these ladies, and they inform you that you done too slow. Rui was actually captured and tortured to death in the process of trying to protect the seed, and left behind this amulet for you, so sorry. Get here faster next time. I'm trying my best. But now we have supposedly everything we need to go and defeat the baddie. Go and kick Moa's butt. So off we go. We have time for one donation.
Sure, we have a $50 donation from Kman218. Omnigamer is one of the best commentators I've seen at GDQ. Great run. Keep it up.
Thank you. All right. This is among the last oranges available for us. Now we head up to the last area. This is the tower. And by the power of the amulet that we just got, it allows us to walk on an invisible floor over here and face the big baddie. All right. Oh. Well, that's not good. Yeah, Mr. Skullface is just a little beyond our abilities right now. So we done goofed. Don't worry, Garcia to the rescue in his only other appearance. And in our dreamlike state, Princess Rui speaks to us from the beyond and informs us more of what we must do. So she gives you the background here. Moa is trying to gain the power of these prisms. The droplets that you've been collecting are actually part of the water prism. There's two other prisms that are in the hands of Anne and Gaul, the two generals that I defeated that gave me the rift keys before. So she drops some very significant knowledge here that I was descended from Sylvan, which is the name of this world that I've been dropped into. So somehow I was transported away as a baby, and I grew up in the other worlds to protect me. She gives her last little bits of words of wisdom, and I recover with not a whole lot going for me. I can't use my sword. I can't use any transformations. I can use the best of my human abilities, which are pushing things and running headlong into fire. Thank you. All right. So now we got to figure out what to do. She gave us some more hints. There's a final droplet that's hidden somewhere. And with the power of this amulet, I can find my way there. With any luck, it'll even restore the power of the seed. Got some minor puzzles to take care of along the way. Alright. We can do one more donation, probably.
Sure, we have a $30 donation from Canadian Exile. I followed GDQ for 2 years now, but never managed to catch a run live. Wanted to give my thanks to all the runners and say what a fantastic reflection of the community this event is.
That's great. This is the very last orange tree. Ta-da! I hate that orange tree just because it messes up my menu management quite a bit, because otherwise I'd have the amulet ready to go, but I need to switch off, and it's impossible to get up there otherwise. It just bugs me. There's some things that you really wish were possible as a speedrunner. It's just like, man, I could go so much faster if only not for that one thing. But you gotta go with what the game gives you sometimes. And in this case, the game gives you fire and some more block puzzles, but we don't care about block puzzles. What's that? You're gonna try harder. Okay. I can try harder too. There we go. That's actually really good. Normally it takes a lot of bounces before I can get through there. There we go. Get the last droplet, and together they reform the water prism, which restores use of my seed. I can transform again. But there's more yet to do in this dungeon. Mouse is a lot better at damage boosting than a human, though. Give him that for sure. Alright. Coming up, we get rematches with each of the generals that I defeated before. They've come back new and improved. There we go. But there's a couple gimmicks required to actually even get there. First things first, get the very last orange. Alright. We are now at maximum health, which In a full run, I would actually wait a little bit on trying to get some of those, just because it does take longer to fill up everything. And we're going to make use of Turtle one more time to crack open the floor. Okay, Gull, what do you got? This is the easier of the two battles, but still requires some good positioning. Oh man, that wasn't great. It will home in on you twice, and you gotta dodge it as well as be in position to hit him afterwards. Oh, no. Okay, that wasn't the best. So now we get jumping spider phase again. There is another bug here that if I was actually able to exploit it with any amount of consistency would make this fight a lot quicker. So you see that he hops around. Every 3 hits he's programmed to turn into little spiders. There's a way to hit him at the exact instant that he jumps, in which he would not count that hit as one of those 3. Alas, it's really hard to set up, and if I had done that, I would have been able to get through it without doing that extra the baby spider cycle. So there we go, Light Prism, 2 out of 3, and that leaves Anne. I was talking earlier about the reason that any percent currently does not exist. Anne is the reason that any percent currently does not exist, and you'll see it's even a struggle to try and take care of it with all the extra health that I have and the additional damage reduction that we have too. Garcia shows up at the very last moment to help us push a rock out of the way. I'm pretty sure I pushed a bigger rock earlier, but we'll just let him feel happy about himself. All right, here we go. And V2. So now, the slimes move faster, they do 3 times as much damage, and I have to fight them 7 times. The middle phase is not interesting at all. If you don't hit her right away, she'd kind of float around the arena, but the real struggle is just making sure that you don't get pounded by these slimes. So there is cycle 2 out of 7. And they can set up in some really nasty formations where they just lock you against a wall. And if you didn't have Pandora's Box, for example, and a lower amount of health, mere 2 hits would kill you. And throughout this, like a good battle is if I can keep up above half health by the end of it. Okay, cycle 3. Go. 4. Oh man, they're being kind to me. They're being kind. They could have easily just played ping pong with me for a little while. Okay, that was number 5. 6. All right. One more to go. This has gone really well so far. Get over here. Oh. Please. 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 All right. This should be the last hit. There we go. And it's done with. So now we've collected all 3 prisms, and it gives us the last power that we need. And the perfect thing to deal with Skullface from earlier, a Power Slash. Unfortunately, Power Slash does the same damage as the multi-hit. It's needed for just how they program some of the bosses, but is otherwise pretty straightforward. This is the last trek across the world, so you can get in some final donations before a couple bosses to round it out.
We have $150 from French Toast 6. Loving the run, Omni. This game looks nifty. The translation has been great so far, but I think we could do one better and do an English dub so that we can hear the mouse form's constant screaming as he runs.
One of the things that I didn't show off so far is that they programmed it so that you can only talk to animals of the same type that you are. And if you were to try and talk to somebody, to a human as a mouse, you just get a bunch of gibberish out of it. And they do that the other way around too. So if you try to talk to moles as human, you'll just get garbled text. All right, here we go. Refight. The power of Power Slash. All right. Okay. He's done with. But wait, there's more. There is a possible soft lock right here, but okay, we should be safe. Oh. This is my positioning just a little bit. I do manipulate these guys to not hit me. They're otherwise really annoying to try and work around. But here we go. This is the final door before Moa. And he is the longest boss. He has 3 different phases. It's not going to be visually evident when he transitions between these phases. And each time I'm able to hit him, ideally I'll be able to hit him 3 distinct times. But most likely it'll be 2. So you'll see why in just a little bit. So he will constantly disappear, cast some magic, and then reappear somewhere. The first hit stuns him. The second hit needs to be a Power Slash. It'll chase you, and then right as his invulnerability wears off, so if you can time those all really well, you can get off 3 hits in a cycle. So that was a good 3-hit. They're quite difficult to get because he needs to spawn close to me, and I have to be really on top of my timing when he comes out of his invulnerability. Like this is not going to be able to do a 3-hit. Yeah. He's now in second cycle. You can tell because he does a different magic attack. This one should be a 3. There we go. All right, that should be the end of his second phase. There we go, another 3-hit. They're really hard to get off, and I'm glad I got 3 of them so far. It does speed up the fight by a couple cycles. Oh gosh, until he spawns on top of me. One of the caveats is that to end a phase, you have to hit him with the Power Slash. All right, and that's it. Time. All right. Dance party to end it out. So there you go. Sylvan Tale. I didn't have any deaths. Really good. I didn't have to rely on either the apple or the grape. This was an overall really good run. There's a very minor ending sequence here, and she drops the last bit of information on you. Actually makes it a little bit more sad, is that she hints very strongly that you are in fact her son. So, goodbye, Mom. But there we go. The end of Sylvan Tale. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. It's a great game. I encourage you to check it out next time you're near any kind of Game Gear. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Doesn't take very long to get through. Give it a try. Take care.
Thanks again to Omnigamer for that absolutely stellar run of Sylvan Tale. We have a $30 donation from Uzi. I've never heard of Sylvan Tale before, but now I have to seek out this hidden gem. Great run, Omnigamer. A $30 donation from Fei Lin. Good luck to all the speedrunners at GDQ, and here's to the Super Monkey Ball race. Thanks for all you guys for doing good. $50 from Vino. Loving the run, Omnigamer. Also, gotta get my dono in when my favorite commentator is on. $30 from Chuck Newman. Love me some speedruns, love me some charity. Games done quick are the highlights of my year. Keep up the awesomeness. $30 from The Dark Adonis. Game gear? What is that, some kind of obscure hunting equipment? $30 from Matt Krua. Really excited for this next block of games. MSF is pretty much the best charity on earth, and I'm proud to support them. Bummed I couldn't be there to support my pal Soraya, so this donation is for her. Thanks, Matt. We're gonna go ahead and play a Twitch ad, and we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back once again to Summer Games Done Quick 2018, a week-long speedrunning marathon that benefits Doctors Without Borders. Doctors Without Borders, or MSF, is a medical humanitarian organization working in more than 60 countries around the world. MSF is a private international association. MSF provides assistance to populations in distress, to victims of natural or man-made disasters, and to victims of armed conflict. They do so irrespective of race, religion, creed, or political convictions. Find out more at doctorswithoutborders.org. Right now, we're getting set up for a Super Monkey Ball 2 race with Utori. And while we're getting ready to do that, we'll go ahead and read some more donations. We have a $150 donation from Drinty, who says, "Thanks everyone for making this an awesome event." We have a $30 donation from Kirby Coon. "Enjoying the runs. Hope everyone else is as well." We have a $150 donation from Raging Jedman. I've been following Omnigamer for years now, so I had to donate during his run. Huge fan, and thanks for all the awesome content. Also, hi Queen Ulhu. You better be watching. Please put this toward the Monkey Ball 2 race. $50 from Little Baby Gator. I love everything about GDQ and all the hard work the staff and runners do to provide such an amazing show. Let's get hyped for that Pepsi Man run. Which, by the way, right now we're currently sitting at $1,499 of the $45,000 incentive. So if you're just as hyped as Little Baby Gator for the Pepsi Man run, please go ahead and get to donating.